Welcome to Slice Property Made Possible. This season is powered by New Zealand Home Loans, local mortgage mentors who have been helping Kiwis achieve their financial goals for 27 years with proven results. The thing I love about NZHL is the mortgages are tailored for you with ongoing personalised service, coaching and tools to put you in control. It doesn't end with buying your property, they continue to help you pay down any loans and build your wealth, which can't be said about all advisors. This season, we will be playfully roasting everyday buyers and experts so you can learn from our mistakes. Head to today's episode notes to get access to our free home buyers software and your very own NZHL advisor. Welcome to the show, Henry. I'm super excited to have you here.
Excited to be here.
Let's take a look at your first home buying journey.
So first home I bought is a little two-beddy apartment in Avondale in Auckland. I bought it a couple of years ago now. I think February 2021, maybe January, kind of almost as the market was at its peak.
Yeah, great place, great time to buy at the top. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
And you bought that as a bit of an investment. That was your approach, right?
Yeah, I sort of bought it to live in, but with the intention that I wasn't going to be my long-term home. It was more sizing it up for potential renters after a couple of years of living there.
You had a smaller deposit though, but was that just a general, because it was built, right?
It wasn't actually, it was off the plans.
Oh, off the plans, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what I was going to buy. I sort of just saved up because I had it in my head that I wanted to be on the property ladder, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I mean, apparently it's more exciting than sports for the majority of New Zealand.
Really?
Yeah.
I can imagine that. Yeah.
It's New Zealand's biggest sport.
Buying and selling properties from each other. Crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's a competitive landscape too, to be honest. But yeah, I had an idea that I wanted to be on the property ladder, and I thought, okay, cool. So I just started saving.
Started with that.
Started there. That's where it started. I guess for me, it was kind of, there were just like, sort of a year and a half of where nothing was happening, and it was just saving. And then it kind of, there was just a week or two where like kind of everything happened all at once. The intention was, I never really set out to have an ideal property in mind. I didn't have my heart set on any place. It wasn't an emotional buy. It was more, I guess, something that I just wanted. But yeah, started saving, and then from there, like sort of, I don't know how deep you want to go into the buying journey for me, but like it was kind of a weird by accident sort of thing that I ended up buying it, to be honest.
What actually happened with that purchase process?
I got a deposit, and I had roughly what I thought was a pretty reasonable deposit to buy a pretty reasonable house. I was kind of looking Auckland. I was looking a little bit in Hawke's Bay, Wellington as well. I didn't quite know where I wanted to be, and Jack and I had only just started kind of double yoke at that time, so it was like I was able to work remote, so I wasn't locked in on Auckland. But I think over summer, what I ended up doing was just going on a few property developer websites and basically just submitting my details. And then I kind of knew that the algorithms
would start serving you.
Would sort of just do
the algorithm
thing.
Gods were like, Henry will buy a home from us.
Exactly. And so just got pasted over summer with ad after ad on Instagram. And I was just like leaning into it. Submit details, one click. Just got all these brochures in from about 10 or 15 different ads, and kind of just started weighing things up, looking at them, doing a bit of research. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, what does it need to kind of buy these, to go and actually buy one of these things? It was like, oh, if you've got your pre-approved loan, come down and talk to us kind of thing. I was like, oh, pre-approved loan. All right, I'll start. I need to get a pre-approved loan.
Get that thing.
So I had a chat to ANZ. It sounded kind of convoluted. It took me about 2 or 3 weeks of going down that rabbit hole by myself. And then I was just like, okay, how to get a mortgage easily.
Is that what you Googled?
Yeah.
Okay, note to self, target.
Literally.
SEO
yeah,
on Google. No,
honestly,
Google's really expensive though, so it's actually like mostly the banks that you'll find probably serving up ads there.
Ad mortgage brokers.
But yeah, not a lot of process support is there in terms of like breaking the steps down.
Now that I've done it once, I feel like I've got a good idea, but awareness and education.
Yeah, it's where we start. Where we start at Slice.
Yeah, I sort of bought by accident after ringing a few people, being like, "I've got this property. Could I buy it?"
Yeah, just ask people.
Yeah,
no need to do due diligence.
Nah. So, yeah, that's actually kind of hard case. I asked Jack, my business partner, and then I rang my brother's partner, and they basically signed the S&P.
Yeah. But anyway, so you went ahead with that.
I did, yeah. So I was living in Westmere and saw that Ockham had their show building up in Greyland. So I literally just like took a late morning, rang Jack, was like, I'm not coming to work until about 11, going to go walk up. I went and viewed it, and they're like, we've got this one on the plans. It's a 10% deposit. It's 6th floor on a 6-story building. So like top story, 2-beddy. It's got a parking space and like a storage lockup. Gave me the price. I was like, okay, cool. Rung Jack, rung my brother's partner, who's an engineer, basically talked to them. And they're like, yep, that looks good. And I was like, sweet, signed it.
And so it was 10% up front, and then you had to pay the rest at completion.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of was good for me, like, you know, in a sense, like, I didn't have to give over that full amount of cash, but then also it gave me like a 24-month saving goal.
Yeah.
Because I probably would have been shy had I done it all.
Some of us need a little extra motivation.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. And a bit of time.
Yeah, a bit more time to get the funds together.
Yeah.
But obviously there is a risk if you can't get those funds together as well, or if, you know, interest rates change. I hate to think how many people were impacted actually over the last year or so with the interest rates increasing, but you have to sometimes go through pre-approval again, and then if you don't get it, you lose that 10% deposit.
And there was a risk that I ran.
Yeah.
And 100% at the time that I bought, it was kind of Feb 2021 when there was a bit of a high to the whole market. I was like, this is going to be fun. My financial position's going to be sweet in 2 years. If anything, it's going to be double. You do run that risk that you've got to reapply for that same bank loan and make sure that you can get that mortgage at the same lending rate, and not only in the interest rate, but also, you know, the amount. And obviously the amount is indexed by the interest rates, right? So it was a bit nerve-wracking kind of coming into it. I wasn't 100% sure because Jack and I obviously had started our own business. We didn't have years and years of growth from that company that we could like arc back on, and because we're paying ourselves next to nothing.
Yeah, it gets hard to prove that you've actually got the finance available when you're a business owner.
Yeah. But I managed to scrape by on that second reapplication for a mortgage.
Amazing. And when you moved through that process as well, and you had to look at like the building contract and things like that, did you have a lawyer look at that before signing, or did you just run that risk?
No, I got a lawyer. Yeah, whether he was good or not, I sort of went. I didn't have a lot of money left over after 10% deposits and things like that, so I went cheap. It was okay, but
any challenges with the contract?
There was only, to be fair, the contract was fine. It was pretty breezy. It was more just
some of them can be pretty bad. Yeah. That is something that people need to be careful around. Is developer contracts. They're very favourable to the developer. So if you're not careful, you can run quite a lot of risk in signing that. Yeah, that is basically one of the key sticking points for a lot of people when you're looking at those contracts is the sunset clause, because it can impact also not just whether or not you can get the lending, but whether or not it becomes a good investment if you're getting that at a much, much higher interest rate, which can occur and did occur over the last few years.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've just cashed up, your business is doing well and you can cover it, but that's not always the case.
Yeah.
And then off the back of that property, you actually bought another investment property since, right?
Yeah, I've got one in Wellington now as well. Pretty similar spec. It's kind of like a 1.5 beddy, I guess. So
apartment as well?
Yeah, apartment-ish. It's on a single-story building, but it's part of a larger complex, sort of made up of a bunch of townhouses, and then there's like an apartment complex and a townhouse kind of off to the side.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, very much similar makeup, still part of a body corporate structure, all the rest of it. It's in a place called Newtown, which is pretty desirable for
renters?
Yeah, for renters, whether university students or whether a lot of people from the hospital and things. That was kind of like why that sounded good. My brother's a doctor. He was like, oh man, get a place close to the hospital. You can rent to doctors, things like that. They're typically on
a salary that can afford that as well, yeah.
Salaries that are good, and generally they're never home. They're always working.
So they're going to leave it tidy.
Yeah, exactly.
What was kind of your strategy in terms of buying those properties?
Strategy?
Welcome to your roast. It's time for a segment we're calling Roast My Home Hunt. It's time to roast, don't take it to heart. When we learn from your mistakes, we all get smart. I kind of knew this as well because we've caught up before, and I was like, sounds to me like Henry didn't quite have one.
I've sort of been thinking about liquidating and actually just like putting in a term deposit. I'm pretty sure it would yield more, but at the same time, it was kind of a two-prong approach, which is I'm from Wellington, and I thought that a small little bolt hole place in Auckland and a small bolt hole in Wellington, no matter where I'm
There's
living
a
in the world.
diversification strategy there. We're not just putting all our money in one market. We can at least,
Yeah, there's a little bit of regional divide there.
Yeah, diversified investments.
I thought potentially just for longer term, like if I'm 50, 55 and my family just need a little place, it would be quite good to just have a bolt hole. So I was actually thinking more from lifestyle in the future than investment.
It's just interesting because normally you would do that with it's forgivable when it's your first time and you're thinking that way. But when you go and buy again, it's like your second chance to kind of go, okay,
correct
what's
the formula?
Yeah, to work out what that investment strategy is.
Yeah,
but we can laugh, and it's good
totally.
that you can laugh and you can learn, and you're in a good position where you own 2 properties.
Yeah, there was a bit more method to the to the madness. My mum's friend is like a property investor in Wellington, and so she really helped kind of find the best sort of price per yield. And so it actually is a cash positive asset at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's actually helps me to basically pay down rent, because actually I don't live in either of them anymore. It helps me pay down my rent. Basically I live rent free off the yield of those 2 properties after expenses.
The rental yield is working, and that is the strategy that you have deployed, whether or not you knew you were or not. But in buying an apartment or townhouse, or the kind of complexes that you're looking at, they tend to perform more on the rental yield side. That's not always the case.
Yeah.
But then like a freehold
which
property,
experiences capital gain.
Is more capital gain.
Yeah.
So those strategies are just different. Honestly, most buyers don't know. They just they purchase that first home, at least from like an emotional standpoint, and I want to live in it.
Yeah.
There's that opportunity for people to actually go, hey, this is my first home, yes, but it's also my biggest investment today. What is my strategy? Is it rental yield? Is it capital gains? Is it both? Rental yield is the cash that you're receiving in to cover the costs of owning that property, being the mortgage, rates, insurance, anything.
Body corporate.
Anything that relates to that the tenants don't have to pay. But also, keeping in consideration that maybe those tenants move, so there might be a vacancy rate.
Yeah.
So you might look at 48 weeks of the year that you think you're getting whatever you're getting per week. Capital gains, on the other hand, is more the increase in value of that property over time. Historically, it was massively land-based. So like if it was a large piece of land, particularly if it's a large piece of land that you can subdivide, because it's like, oh, well, I can now make that into 2 houses and sell that off as 2 houses.
Yeah.
But it's just getting a sense of actually how these properties are going to perform, and you can do calculations. We run through them in our home buyers course, which I'll drop the link to in this episode's notes. As a business owner, I do think rental yield can be a very valid strategy.
Yeah.
So I'm not criticising the properties that you've bought. I'm just criticising that you didn't have a strategy.
Just sort of made it up as we went along. It was a retrospective strategy.
But retrospectively, that was probably quite a good strategy for you because you're a business owner as well.
Moving forward, if I was to, actually think about investing in more properties, probably I would have to really think about exactly how you'd go about doing it. The first one was kind of just basically a rush to the start, and then even the second one was really just like, I've got some cash here.
What do I do with it? Yeah. Which is not a bad place to be, and
Yeah.
And I know that you earned some of that through bonuses, right? Basically.
Yeah.
So it's just so he wasn't given the cash, because we'll probably get people commenting going, "Oh, I just found some cash in my car."
No. It's purely generated through professional.
Yeah.
Work.
So he worked. He worked. He got some bonuses. He bought another property. So that's the American dream, kids. Jumping into today's audience question, I actually decided to ask you a question myself, because on a positive and an exciting space, you've obviously had your recent business with Jack acquired.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm keen to hear about how you felt managing those property investments and managing the business over what has been a pretty tricky couple of years for many.
It was pretty scary, I think, buying both of them. I almost pulled out on both. I was nervous. I was nervous about vacancy. I sort of stretched myself right to the limits of that kind of borrowing capacity. And just from a cash flow perspective, if one of those Wellington or those Auckland houses weren't rented, I would have to foot the bill for that. And there wasn't much left over in the kitty after basically, expenses, what we're paying ourselves, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm glad that I got them. Like, I'm really glad that I got those assets.
Easy to say that when you're making it through the other end, right?
The acquisition helped, and to be honest, a lot of the cash went to just basically pay down those mortgages to just get them more cash positive. I mean, it's a high interest environment. They're on floating interest rates. Like, I basically just nerfed out a lot of those 2 properties. Now weren't that cash positive when I was working with them before the sale. Now they yield a pretty decent amount because I've been able to just chuck bulk cash.
Yeah,
at them
okay,
from the
because I just
acquisition.
ran those numbers and I was like, that yield doesn't look as cash positive once you add rates, maintenance and everything like that. But of course you'd be looking at it as well, like I pull a little bit more money in from the business and then that covers this year's rates. I know the business owner mindset, and sometimes it's you know, you're not thinking about those costs because until they're due. Like you just push that payment out and you don't think week by week, actually, there's another 150 I should be saving to go towards rates or whatever, insurance, whatever.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So to be fair, those were liabilities. Both those properties were liabilities. Now they're cash
and a
positive.
bit of pressure to be under, you know, while you're
Totally.
trying to do that, you're trying to do the business, and we've got a recession happening. Like, I can't imagine that felt easy all the time.
Like a reduced rate to interest rates, obviously, it's good for my cash flow, right? But if that then results in people, I guess, or people investing more money, you know, that maybe, I don't know, a high net wealth individual with 10 million in the bank making 6% return on a term deposit or something, it's just guaranteed. Interest rates comes down, no longer can make that money in the bank. They pull into property, prices go up, new entrants are then further shut out. I'm assuming. I don't know,
that is a bit how it happens. It just encourages more and more people into property, and there's only a limited amount of supply, and our building isn't great in New Zealand in terms of the volumes that we can pump out due to regulation.
Is it regulation constraints? Just too many hoops to jump through?
We can't drop down Cody anymore. No, I'm not advocating for that, by the way, but like we used to be able to do all of that sort of stuff, and now the materials that we have to use and the way in which we have to build and the sustainability criterias and the, you know, there's a bunch of different criterias, really the safety criterias and insurance criterias, all of those things are important, don't get me wrong, but it just impacts the way in which we can build at speed. And obviously we're a small country at the bottom of the earth, so it's hard to import materials in a timely fashion, so that increases the cost. So all of these things, just from a broader perspective, when you zoom out, limit the amount of supply that can be provided in the New Zealand housing market, and that's why we kind of move people, the investors, move their money in and out, but it comes back in. There's things that could change that, but one of the best things that could change that would actually be a reallocation or an encouragement for those kind of investors with lots of money to move that into business, which actually creates job opportunities, it creates growth. Like, it's not just moving money into something that already exists and then taking it out again. Like, often it's just into houses that are already there. It's not into new builds. Like, as I said, we've got a problem pumping enough of them out. If all of the investors were, you know, forced to spend their money on the new builds, that would make sense as a regulation. Like growing the amount of houses that were available. Or if, better yet, I mean, obviously this is bias as a business owner, but moving that into businesses and seeing, you know, people encouraged to do that, that would be a much better outcome for the New Zealand economy. And it's just a shame, but the way that our system is set up, it is a bit broken, and that means that first-time buyers do have to get creative, and the market will change. It'll get harder, it'll get easier, but ultimately that base level of easier is sort of now, I would say, and it's still pretty bloody hard. Like, you've still got to find what your opportunities are, or whether or not there's someone that can support you in. But obviously with Slice you can get educated and get started, and that's half the battle as well. Yeah,
that makes sense. And I guess as well, like, even though like when interest rates are high and let's say property values kind of flatline or go down a little bit, the lending criteria to get a mortgage also goes up with those interest rates, right? I'm assuming.
So when the interest rates go up?
Yeah, interest rate. Do banks get tighter with lending money out, right? So you've got to actually. Yeah. It's like either properties.
Yeah.
You know,
so that's the reason why I think it's like 99.6% or something of those through this recession have still been repaying their mortgages. So it's not like we've had a whole bunch of defaults, which is what happened in the United States during the global financial crisis. Because they didn't have high test rates, they were lending money to people that did not have the ability to pay that back. Yeah. And then they were selling that debt on, which is called collateralized debt. And then it was like a game of hot potato, and whoever was left with that got shanked. Got shanked. But in New Zealand, we've always had really high test rates. So when you're getting an interest rate of 6%, the bank tests that you can actually pay at 8%.
Gotcha.
So that in a year's time, when that interest rate goes up or
yeah.
potentially goes up, you can meet those repayments. And that's why
Gotcha.
we haven't had a bunch of defaults. And now the interest rates are coming back down. So that big bubble burst, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It's just more a softening of the market, and that's cyclical. You know, you invest with a strategy and you try and find a property that you're going to be able to maintain when things change, as they inevitably do.
Yeah, 100% when things get tough.
Amazing. Well, I've got my last question for you, Henry. Thank you so much for joining us and for letting me roast you a little. I knew you'd take it like a champ. My last question is, if one of your homes, any of your homes, had a doorbell and that doorbell played a theme song, what song would it play?
Probably the intro to Lord of the Rings.
I knew as soon as you went that you were going to say Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You're a bit of a geek.
I am. I seriously... Lord of the Rings all time for me. It's actually kind of funny. Every house I live in, my Wi-Fi code is always something Lord of the Rings themed. So right now I've got...
sweet. That means if anyone wants to Skype off your Wi-Fi, you shall not pass.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining our community. Please leave an Apple or Spotify review and provide feedback so we can improve our podcast for you. We really appreciate it. Check out the links in today's episode notes to get access to our free resources and your own NZ Home Loans financial advisor. On that note, a quick reminder, Slice the podcast does not provide financial advice as we're not taking into account your personal circumstances. However, when you join our platform, we have a team of partners like New Zealand Home Loans ready to provide you with financial advice free of charge.